Now, Rob McCracken, obviously performance director's not always, but for most of the time he's been here, trained pros as well. But not just that, he's trained real consummate discipline pros, first in Carl Froch, now in Anthony Joshua, who doesn't have to make weight, but is still known for nutritional discipline, among other things. How much of an impact has that had on the amateur guys to see what it requires at the very top level of the professional sport?
Yeah, it's been really positive over the years. I mean, again, unfortunately you don't see the guys eat in the gym, but obviously I've worked closely with Carl and Anthony through that time, so I think firstly it just gives them confidence in my advice. I think straight away it gives me great buy-in that these young kids that come onto the programme, like, oh, that's Anthony Joshua's nutritionist, that's Carl Froch's nutritionist, like, you know, that it's easier to get people to buy in straight away and take the advice on. You don't have to spend 6 months building a relationship. You know, they'll take confidence because of the success that those guys have had. And the likes of Josh, obviously he was actually part of the amateur program for a long time. You know, he'd travel the world and eat meals with these guys, and there has been a lot of cross-pollination in that often the guys will be staying locally, they'll eat together. So yeah, they've definitely rubbed off, and they see them doing things like the recovery strategies in here immediately after a training session. Those guys are straight onto the recovery shakes, they're straight onto their stretching and foam rolling and ice baths, and it definitely rubs off. I mean, so much so, like, you know, even the likes of Josh bought us a new ice bath for the changing room in there. It's fantastic, like little things like that the kids benefit from hugely. Froch was brilliant because being in here, obviously everyone's checking their weight before training, and then he'd get on the scales, and you know, he might not like me saying this because I think, you know, when you're a fighter there's probably that myth that you're huge at the weight and things, but Carl never was. He was fantastic. Like, he probably, you know, he might do an interview with you guys a week before a fight and say, I'm massive, I'm going to be coming down from, like, you know, 10 pounds over the next week. And
he was always pretty straight.
Yeah, well, there you go, that's it. But he'd get on the scales in there after training and he'd be like a pound or two off his weight, and like boys here that are preparing for an amateur fight that don't have that 24 hours recovery would see that and think, shit, you know, I need to get on that. And yeah, it's a great role model to have around, and they still are. Like, you know, we still see Josh a lot. Froch is still close to the program. You know, you still see him all over the place, and he's still a positive role model in the media as well.
Just as we're mentioning Josh, a lot's been made recently of the change in his physique. And I just wondered if you can give any insight into that. I think maybe it's been made more of than it is.
Yeah, I was going to say that, I've got my computer there with all my data on it since he was, you know, at the London Olympics. Yes, he definitely gained some muscle mass after the games, but it's not big. Like, it's. Oh no,
I mean, I'm sorry, no, I mean recently pictures. It looks like he's lost a bit of definition. Maybe
definitely gained some lean mass post amateur to pro career, and then, you know, there's definitely been some peaks and troughs in the pro career as we've set our tactics and set our physical strategies for our opponents. However, yeah, it's not significant. It's not massive. I think I always laugh when I see an article in the paper saying, "Oh, look at his new physique." Well,
they're saying, his new slim line. Yeah.
And I'm looking at the scales thinking, that doesn't add up. That's like.
Is it just simply that he's been out of training?
No, I think it's just the angles of the photos you take and like just whatever story you want to make from a picture.
So he's still a unit.
Yeah, he's still a unit, and he's it's, you know, we work with Rob and we work with Josh and the whole team again on setting what the physical game plan is going to be for each fight and how you approach that, whether it's strength and power, whether it's movement and fitness, or, you know, whatever the sort of goals are for that, and then we will put the diet and training around that. But yeah, it's funny, like when we talk about it as well, you're talking very subtle changes as well. We're not talking huge changes like people make out in the press.
When are you still in touch with him regularly while he's out training in Finchley and stuff like that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we've got a real close team, and like, you know, Josh is unbelievable. He trains all year round, and whether it's like from my side of it, whether it's around planning training, like literally as soon as these fights finish, we're in the next week to do a debrief and debriefing every element of it, and then we're putting the plans together for the
most recent one must have been a bit of a sombre affair.
Well, again, it's funny, like the amateur coach will tell you as well, the debriefs here, you know, then even if you win, like, you can't celebrate, you can't have a party, we may as well all just go to the pub and have a drink. It's like, that's not what we do. Like, we get in and we do a debrief and we get down into details, and there's, you know, we're always critical. It doesn't matter, you know, there's no doubt about it. After a loss, it's definitely a bit more somber, but even if we win, like, you know, we're there to get down and look at how we can improve. It's not about celebrating, it's about looking at how we push on to the next one.
Obvious question in that case, from the nutritional perspective only, because that's your area of expertise, Did you identify anything in terms of improvement following the last performance?
Not particularly. I mean, again, there's definitely things that I can always improve on, and I've got on my sleeve. And nutrition's so cool in that there's always new cutting-edge strategies coming out all the time. There's always something new to look at. But yeah, it's again, Josh's a dream to work with from a diet point of view. Like, he eats so well. He's a sponge. He's always keen to learn new things and try new things as well, and that's what these times outside of camp are for as well. It's like, try new things, look at different methods, look at new techniques, and then when we start camp 12 weeks out, then we focus in and get to what's important. But that's what these times now are for me, to be looking at the literature, looking at the new strategies that are out there, and yeah, it's the time to explore and look at new things. But when camp starts, we're fully focused and back to what we know works for us.
Presumably there's a little while before that happens. If the fight is December the 7th, you said 10 weeks, there's still a little while that he's got off.
12 weeks, I mean, but again, he's never off. Like, it's we try and push him to get a couple of weeks holiday and take a break, and he'll definitely be doing that and having a rest. But this guy, he ticks over all the time. He's always looking after himself physically, just working on bits of technique or whatever it is, ticking over in the gym. He's not one of these guys that's going to take 6 weeks off and do nothing. Even if he's on holiday, he'll be going for a jog down the beach and doing some stretching and things. Like, he is the consummate professional.
And just last question for you, is it exactly the same level of satisfaction guiding or helping to guide Joshua to a world title victory as it is to a GB fighter to a gold medal at an international?
Oh, good question. Like, well, obviously those huge nights are special, aren't they? Like, they are amazing events, and you think, like, whether it's Roch or Josh, and we've sold out Wembley, like, it's phenomenal, it's so exciting. But I think emotion-wise, like, I would probably be more emotionally involved when it's the Olympics bit, because it changes lives, doesn't it? Like, what happens in that, like, again, when Josh won that Olympic gold, it changed his life. So that, yeah, those fights probably mean so much more emotionally and to everybody, because yeah, you just see where that takes people. And like, again, it's amazing, isn't it, to think that of all those kids you've seen today, in 12 months time, fingers crossed, like 3 or 4 of them, their lives are going to change forever. But yeah, definitely, I think they're all amazing. And again, whether that's Man United playing on a Sunday or anyone else, like, all the athletes we work with, we get hugely excited about. Like, it can be quite stressful when you can't switch off at the weekend, because you've got football, athletics, boxing.
I bet your missus loves it.
Hates it, yeah. She might only Sky subscription for the front room only, get out of her way. But yeah, you get excited about all of them, but there's definitely something special about the Olympics. I think Josh should tell you the same as well.
Brilliant. Well, Mark Ellison, really appreciate your time, and best of luck going into the Worlds.
Thanks very much.
Cheers, Mark.
Cheers, mate.